Welcome to this special feature on the efforts to combat the illicit trade of sandalwood in Kenya. Today we bring you highlights from a ceremony held at the DCI headquarters where 13.5 tons of sandalwood were destroyed. The event was attended by high-profile government officials and multi-stakeholders who are committed to protecting the environment, conserving biodiversity, and fighting illegal wildlife trafficking.
1, 2, 3. Our chief guest is officially destroying the endangered Sandalwood. Makofi jamani, ikiwa ni tani 13.5.
The sight of burning woods is a grim reminder of the illegal trade in sandalwood that threatens the country's forests and wildlife.
Today's event is very symbolic and acts to demonstrate the commitment and teamwork of various stakeholders gathered here today to break the illicit networks that seek to benefit from the growing illicit trade in sandalwood trees and its products. The global demand for sandalwood oil has led to a creation of an expansive illicit network of traffickers that seek to exploit the community and Kenya Forestry Service managed forests to harvest the sandalwood tree. It is estimated that in Samburu County, 1 kilogram of sandalwood is sold at less than 100 shillings, which is less than $1. In the international market, on the other hand, 1 liter of sandalwood oil fetches up to $3,000. We must not lose sight of the fact that the sandalwood tree takes up to 45 years to mature, and it is a host to many other species and biodiversity. And the destruction of the sandalwood tree during harvesting or uprooting harms local biodiversity and ultimately negatively impacting on the local climatic conditions. And with the current drought that continues to ravage the country, no one needs a lot of convincing to do to ensure that we take charge and protect our environment. With this collaborative effort, it is time that we investigate and look into ensuring that our laws are deterrent enough to combat the environmental crimes that we continue seeing in the wake of very devastating effects of climate change.
The Director of Criminal Investigation, Mohammed Amin, also addressed the gathering, emphasizing the importance of multi-agency collaboration in fighting wildlife, forestry, and fisheries crimes.
The DCI takes cognizance of the efforts of the multi-agency teams to tirelessly hunt down the well-connected syndicates that operate in the underworld, critically scathing our environment out of sheer greed for illegal wealth. It is important for all of us to bear in mind that the East African sandalwood is listed within the Wildlife Conservation and Management 6th Schedule as an endangered species. And this is the same status as the white rhino, the African elephant, and the blue whale. But forest crime is often overlooked, yet the illegal income generated from it dwarfs that of wildlife crime and is annually estimated by the UN to be between 30 to 100 billion US dollars globally. As a DCI, we do appreciate the need for multi-agency cooperation and collaboration in the fight against wildlife, forestry, and fisheries crimes in Kenya. And we also acknowledge that no institution can single-handedly manage this fight.
If you have any information about illegal wildlife trafficking, forestry, or fisheries crimes, please call the DCI hotline number on the screen.
We have worked together with the communities and stakeholders to ensure and to reduce to the bare minimum the illegal harvesting of this particular species. In championing the conservation spirit by our Nobel Prize Nobel laureate Professor Wangari Maathai, it is the right thing to do as we launch the Operation Wangari.
The United States Ambassador to Kenya, Ms. Megan Whitman, also expressed her pride in Operation Wangari, a partnership between the United States and Kenya law enforcement agencies, conservationists, and local communities.
Usually, when I give a speech or address audiences, I say I am delighted to participate. But given the circumstances of why we've gathered, delighted is not the right word. In fact, I wish we did not have to have a reason to convene today. If we weren't here, perhaps 13.5 tons of beautiful and fragrant sandalwood would still be growing in its natural African habitat. I am, however, very proud that the United States has partnered with the Directorate of Criminal Investigations and the Kenya Forestry Service to support conservation and eliminate illegal trafficking of precious commodities like sandalwood. And I am delighted that the trafficking networks that are decimating these wonderful trees are being dismantled by our joint enforcement efforts through what we call Operation Wangari.
The destruction of the sandalwood was not just a symbolic gesture, but also a tangible step towards protecting the environment and conserving biodiversity. The event showcased the collaborative efforts of multi-stakeholders, including KFS, DCI, ODPP, Judiciary, and KWS, against destruction of forests through illegal sandalwood harvesting in community forests. After the ceremony, Cabinet Secretary Tuya met with members of the Conservation Alliance of Kenya to explore areas of collaboration in the special presidential program for accelerated forestry and rangelands restoration.
The Ministry of Environment, Climate Change and Forestry launched the 15 billion National Tree Growing and Restoration Campaign in December 2022. The campaign seeks to lead the country and rally everybody to increase Kenya's tree cover to 30% by 2032. It is an all-government, all-society, all-community approach, because without that collaboration, then we cannot achieve the target that we have set for ourselves as a country to maximize on nature-based solutions to address the climate change crisis that we are faced with. It's the largest opportunity for restoration and tree growing lies in our arid and semi-arid lands, within community lands, within community forests, and on-farm forestry. Therefore, we will need the support of all the farmers from across the country, and we are working round the clock, again with various players, to make sure that we maximize on incentives for individual Kenyans, our farmers, our organizations working with enterprise development across the country, so that Kenyans can see the value of ecosystem restoration.
Successful implementation will increase the national tree cover to 30%. The 15 million trees growing campaign is equivalent to growing 300 trees per person over the next 10 years.
We are hoping as an alliance to collaborate going forward, not only in this effort of the 15 billion tree growing campaign, but also in restoring our great country and the rangelands and the forest lands and the spaces that people live, so that both wildlife and people continue to thrive together in a very healthy ecosystem.
The Principal Secretary of the State Department for Forestry, Ephantus Kimodo, had this to say.
As the State Department of Forestry and Ministry of Environment, we've been able to share the 15 billion strategy, which actually gives a restoration opportunity of 10.6 million hectares, 70% of this being in the ASALs, which is an area the Conservation Alliance of Kenya are closely working. So we've actually agreed on a number of issues, which one of them is actually scaling up. This gives us a big restoration opportunity of around 6.9 million hectares. So we will come with several programs which will enhance and ensure that we come with programs that will also not only restore but also improve the livelihood of our communities who've actually been doing a great job towards conservation of the environment. We also looked at ways and means of how we can also advance the commercial forestry in the farmlands, which also gives us a bigger restoration opportunity for the farmers.
The meeting, organized by the Conservation Alliance Kenya, will address gaps in environmental policies, legal framework, and assessment of natural capital values, biodiversity, and carbon credits to increase revenue potential. Operation Wangari is a reminder that conservation is a collective responsibility and that the fight against environmental crimes requires the participation of every member of the public. This is not just an environment goal, it is a national mandate for a sustainable future.
It's never too late to initiate action around protection of our environment and ecosystems.
Chemtai Kirui reporting for CAS TV for the Conservation Conversation Program.